company until 9 o'clock this morning. Of course, we'll take your calls. Of course, our guest this morning would be Garvin Hero. We're going to talk about crime and criminals and the casual way in which they doing the robberies now. All right, but quickly, let's get into the WT, see what's happening weather-wise and traffic-wise. I have nothing in the east-west corridor to tell you about. Nothing on the Solo, nothing in San Fernando. Look at that. Just getting a Port of Spain is where I'm seeing some traffic. But that's about it. All right. Take a look at what's happening weather-wise in some parts around our globe. And I'll tell you what we're doing. Toronto, you're sitting at 19 degrees and sunny. Miami, 27 and clear. Orlando, partly cloudy and 25. New York, sunny and 20. Atlanta, 20 and clear. London, mostly cloudy and 21. Tampa, you're sitting at 27. Washington, D.C., 21 and sunny. All right. That's the temp. Let's see what our weather is going to be like for today in Trinidad and Tobago. It is 26 degrees on both islands. 26. I'm just trying to pull up the weather here. I know I had it a second ago and I touched the phone and everything disappeared. Always happens. Let's see. Weather-wise, where's the weather? Where's the weather? I just had it a second ago. I'll get it. Don't worry. It's here somewhere. Right. Today being Tuesday, additional showers, isolated thunderstorms are carded for today through Wednesday. All right. Scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms activity is expected to initially favor eastern and southern regions of Trinidad from early morning through mid-morning, generally moving in a northwesterly direction by midday. A few instances of isolated strong thunder shower activity is anticipated near western coastal and or hilly areas, becoming mostly settled near sunset. Tobago, scattered showers over various areas with early morning with isolated thunderstorms developing near midday as activity peaks, becoming mostly settled mid to late afternoon. All right. So that's the weather forecast for today. Checking some temps across our listenership. Just did that a while ago. Yeah. All right. So that's it. That's your WTs. Let's use and as hellos first thing this morning on this Tuesday. DJ Ray out in Delaware. Good morning to you. First off the gate, Maria Marva, Oliver Man Warren, Miss Ingrid out in Tucson, Arizona. Good morning to you. Of course, you guys are having a sweltering time, I will tell you, out in Arizona. Yeah. All right. Just to let you know, FYI, last week was the hottest ever on record for planet Earth. Last week. Yeah, and that's it. Chris Tousse, good morning to you. I have to call you Dad. You just popped in my mind. All right, so that's it. Of course, Paul is not in. Richard is not in as yet. So it's just me until Richard joins us, which should be shortly. And yeah, all right. Yeah, that's it. All right, so I'll open up the lines. Early o'clock, you can keep me company. 222-8255, toll free. North Americans, 866-525-1099. And I'm seeing that the detained Venezuelan migrants protest at the heliport. Still no water for Belmont and St. Barb's. Yep. Only yesterday I got water. Yesterday, Sunday evening is when I got water. And yesterday when I got home, it still had water. And last night, water was still flowing. And I said, all right. 1.5, 1/5 of the population without water. But thank goodness that is coming up. All right. So give me a call, 222-8255. Toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099. I tell you, our guest this morning will be Garvin Hira. We're going to talk about crime. And don't forget our morning poll. You can vote on our poll still. Right? But let's take this call. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Morning, Arima. What's happening?
Steve, what went wrong with the news?
Apparently nobody was in here to read news. I didn't get news, so there we go.
And and no apologies from you.
Um,
That is not like you.
I know it's me alone here, so I'm doing everything by myself. So apologies.
Forget to apologize.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Stevie, you have a good day.
All righty, you have a good one yourself.
Yes.
Take care. All right. Just a reminder of our poll. Do you think the Commissioner of Police needs to be seen and heard more in light of rising crime? Of course, we're going to give you those results coming up in about 35 minutes or so. Let me just check to see what it is right now. Oh, a lot of votes. Okay, good. All right. Yeah. So 222-8255. Toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099. That's our numbers directly into our studio. Yeah, so give me a call. It's just me in for now until Richard joins us. I don't think Paul is coming on today. Of course, he's across the pond. Yeah, he's across the pond. Enjoying, because if you follow him on Facebook, he's out and about and taking a lot of pictures. I saw there was a video. I didn't really follow up on it this morning because when I get up, I just move in. Somebody, yeah. Okay. All right, Ruben. Yeah. Somebody got knocked down, and apparently the individual didn't want to give information. If I could find that, where is it? Yeah, I haven't played it yet, so I can't put it on the air. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. All right. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Morning, Zina. You wide awake?
Not yet, but I'm getting there.
You're getting there.
Listen to me now.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, you see, we were having our crime. Pardon me? See, we were getting our crime, having our crime problem. It was getting bad enough. And then with the coming of the Venezuelans, they added to it. And imagine you are a migrant in a country. You come here and all you feel all you come here, all you're doing wrong things, and then all you feel all you could misbehave. What they keeping them so long at that heliport for them to be struggling to rebel? Put them on some kind of Coast Guard boat or some of the same fishing boat that has come on and send them home. Right. The more that them come, the more will come. They're too comfortable here. Right. That's what I find. Government waiting too long, the pussyfooting too long.
Well, they need to have a process.
Well, yes, but process them quick and send them home. What process you telling me about? To give us more trouble here?
Yeah, but Zina, you have family in the States or Canada?
I have family all about.
All right. I'm just asking, so don't take offense. Any of them went across there without papers?
No.
Everybody had papers before they went?
That's right.
You know anybody who went away without papers and stayed?
No. And even if you go there, you're going through the correct port. Is that you would overstay?
Well, what happens is that people go. No.
And without any processing.
No, people go across on a visitor's visa and just overstay, and that's it.
But you are going through the correct port and immigration. You get in through immigration and so on, you will overstay.
Well, that's what migrants do. That most of them don't. Some, well, the Venezuelans, they take in their They're pirogues from Venezuela to here. They're legal boats that go across daily.
Well, if they don't take drastic action, when will it stop? We have 1.4 approximately people, Steve. Venezuela has over 30 million. If we don't really do something serious, how many of them will come here? They will overrun the population. So something serious has to be done. And I find the authorities pussyfooting too long with these people. Thank you. I go on.
All right, Zena. Thank you. All right. 222-8255, 612-8255. Toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099. Yeah, give me a call. Richard is running a bit late. Let's say good morning. Go down to Brenda Isaac. Good morning to you. Marcia Rock. Good morning. Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida. Good morning. Jacinta Nicholas. Ingrid Adams. Cynthia Ramsrup. Hey, Cynthia, long time. Marcia Rock. Good morning. Brenda Isaac says no news is good news. Boy, tell me about it. No news is good news sometimes, you know. Anthony Tinto out in Canada, Ontario, Canada. Good morning.
Morning, Steve.
Morning, dear. What's happening?
You're by your lonesome self for now.
I am by my lonesome self.
Don't worry, we are here with you.
All right. Well, that's good. That's good.
Thanks very much. I got a call early yesterday morning from Tiantec. Someone from Tiantec, and she told me to send in my complaint with the other people too now. Let the other people send in complaint so that they will know what's going on. So I told her yes, although some of them said it doesn't make sense, you know.
Of course, it make why you see, and they see people say it don't make sense. You'll still have that problem.
Yes, that's what she said. They won't know. But my problem is I want to find out what is the cause of these outages so often.
Well, you see that clearly there is a problem on the line, but if everybody stay quiet, it won't get rectified.
Yes, I put it on the chat and people say, well, it doesn't make a difference because they ain't doing nothing, you know.
Well, will you put back on that chat? If they don't know, they cannot rectify. So if they want to stay back and don't say a word, stay back and don't say a word and just keep complaining.
All right.
Why complain? You see, and I don't understand that.
You can't do nothing, yeah. And it will happen.
You're complaining. You have an opportunity to get it rectified. Nah, nothing will happen. I just don't understand that stupid way of thinking.
All right. So I'll call you later again this morning.
Yeah. Keep me posted.
Right.
All righty. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
Morning.
I wish that you will be able to control the situation by yourself. But my beef is it's time for the administration to change two people. There's the absence, especially Richard, too late. And we, the listeners, just get up 5:30 out of our bed waiting for the program. Time to make a change.
All right. Yep. And Ruben, I just did. Ruben had said I'm not on YouTube to log in again. So I just did. Good morning. Hello.
Yes, sir. Morning. How are you?
Mr. Patrick, what's shaking?
Everything. Yesterday I was having a conversation with a Venezuelan guy, right?
Right. Oh, that should be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, here for a while, he people. And he find a real stupidness for 300 Venezuelan illegal to be clustered in alignment. He said something wrong with them people, and he's a Venezuelan. I hear asking about America and Canada and different places. We Trinidadians and other people don't go there and go in a party 200 of them illegal in a party or there. And do not get a stupid society illegal and all the 300-400 all there. Something wrong with that kind of thinking. I mean to say, if you're illegal, you will observe certain things, you will watch what's going on. If you're going on lime, you're going on lime under low. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But all you keeping a big lime regularly say, in different places and all illegal. He said they must come after all there.
You're kind of right with that, huh?
Yeah. He said with the respect, 300 illegal. And all you go and lime in a popular place. And then when people come and lock up all you making noise, he say they plan out to lock them up a long time. Because they are accustomed doing them thing. So the issue is not what you're doing, but it's how you do it, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Can, it's how you do it. Steve Can have 3 hours go away and do illegal. We have to know what we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to know what we're doing. So I want to hear a different discussion about 300 to 400 illegal migrants liming and partying and drinking and carrying on and making noise in your country if no authorities will deal with that. Another thing I was listening to some of them last week, price of flower drop, right? You know that, right?
I just read a headline on it. I didn't read into the story.
Yeah. I think flower drop, certain brands of flower drop and thing, I think rice too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain brand of rice and flower drop and thing. But we need plenty more things to drop, boy.
Let me tell you, you go to the grocery and I tell $1,000 and you still see the grung from the cart, you know. I keep saying that.
Boy, it has certain things that I like to buy and thing, and when you go and you check the price and nuts, the mixed nuts and them kind of thing, boy, then you got and different thing, like the price going up every week, boy.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. It's quite expensive now. If you have kids and they want snacks and this and that, it's expensive.
Now when school closed here again, children eating more, you know.
Exactly. They want something to eat. So there's more groceries that they buy.
In the house. Every minute on the house, the thing. But Miss Lady, the T-Antex, the RIC, that is the body who does deal with them, right? I know, a lot of people don't know. It's have a law in Trinidad and Tobago that you're supposed to get your house re-inspected every 10 years, you know. Nice? I only find out that when I was renovating my place here, some years back, when you go to the inspectorate, you understand? So they want to get a certificate of inspection when these things happen, because the first thing they will say is your house. And a lot of people adding on things to the house, a condition, big the freeze, all kind of thing, and they're not doing the correct electrical programs.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So what we're talking about sometimes is low voltage. Nice? The Twin City are an area where light used to be dimming every 5-6 minutes. I come home already and see my air conditioner on, I see my TV on, and I never put it on. And then I realized a current went and come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an issue. I went to T&T in Iowa, and it was giving me a run around. You understand? So I called in an AC man, and he said the AC board fry. You understand?
Well,
tell me what's going on. He tell me what's going on. I buy a surge protector and put on all the items. That's what he told me. Nice?
Yeah.
And it have a surge protector, people, that you could put direct in your panel. But that when you wire in your house.
Yeah.
You put it direct in your panel.
Correct. So the electricity goes straight into that panel.
Straight
so your house is now covered.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know about, but people who know wiring a property and thing, try to invest in that tree electrician.
Yeah.
So that will help you a lot. All right, buddy. All right, yeah.
All right, buddy. No problem. Yeah, get a break. My air conditioner is on. I have a surge protector for my air conditioner. I also have a switch. So when I leave the house, I turn the switches off. So that way, if I get a surge, even though I'm protected by the surge protector, the switch is still off. I ain't playing that, you know. I'm not playing that at all. Television, same thing. Good morning. Refrigerator, surge protector. Morning.
Patrick. Mr. Patrick, in the early when these Venezuelans started to protest because they was having voting in Venezuela, and I spoke about it, the host and them was vexed. Let them take that now. If you want to wash your dirty linens and you're living in Trinidad, go home and wash your dirty linens. They're too disrespectful and they love to riot and they feel there's God gives to TNT. Yes, Steve, people didn't leave here legally, illegal to go America. They had their passport, they went
No,
through the
I'm saying
system.
some.
Some people behave themselves and some don't. But these Venezuelans overdoing it.
Well, you
My
see,
daughter have a
and
house all 2
yeah, but
o'clock
it
in the
comes back
morning.
down.
Huh?
It comes back down of the Coast Guard who's patrolling the waters.
Well, they're
You
doing a good
have,
job because they're going every day and coming
you
back.
have, yeah, but that's intel as well. You have a boat from Venezuela and Trinidad going back and forth, and not one Coast Guard vessel can pick it up
And not only
and
that, this
stop them and send them back.
Justina lady know all what's going on. That lady, they always shouldn't even have her on the radio station because she know exactly what's going on and
Well, that has nothing to do with the radio station. But intel should be involved and figure it out. We're not hearing anything about the Coast Guard.
Anybody, any foreigners looking to protest in Trinidad should be locked up. Wash your dirty linens at home. Don't disrupt me. Don't disrupt my country. Don't be that ungrateful. Some of them, the 3 years they're here, they have 3 babies. They come to better their life. How much of them break up homes and all kind of things? Get them back out. Sad to say.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. It's the same way the guns and ammunition coming in. I guess some coming by air and slip through the cracks. Some come through by containers and slip through the cracks. But in my mind, I can see just most of them coming off illegally on the port, not port, by sea. That's in my mind. You have an automatic weapon. Where you getting the bullets from? It's like having a phone in prison. How you charging the phone? But again, we don't hear anything about the Coast Guard making patrols, the intel. Well, they're coming from this area, so we'll set up a patrol over there. They say they have a radar system that can pick up everything. Who's monitoring that? That is the question. To me, that is where we need to start. Not on the road before it gets here. There are illegal migrants coming in from all over. Dominica, let's go to Spanish speaking. Dominica, Venezuela, of course, Cuba. Then we have from the islands. I have no problem with Venezuelans. They are hard workers and they go about their stuff. They have the certain percentage that get involved in the crime and doing this and that. But they need to have a system in place. Not like what we had in the Oval a couple of years ago to come and be registered. That was absolute chaos. But things need to be put into place. If 200 people decide to go to a club and line, and they're illegal, and the immigration department, through intel, let's hope, realize that, pull up a bus, and that's what they did. So if they protest, what are they protesting about? That they're in a country illegally, and now they're protesting? I don't know. Good morning, caller. Good morning.
Steve, I'm happy that it's not me alone seeing it that way. You see, what happens is this. I hear the argument about our people going abroad, as Miss Sampson say. You don't leave here and sail to go America. You fly, you have passport, you have your visa, you have everything, and you overstay, which is wrong too. But what I'm saying is that at least they have information in the system on you. But where we here don't have any information as to exactly how many people from outside in this country. I mean, illegally, I'm talking about. And there are certain people here. There's a specific woman that I read on the papers. She said exactly that what they can't stop them, and they will continue to come. One set of thing to the other. You can't tell me that more people are coming here, and the best thing you could say is that you cannot prevent them from coming, and they will continue to come. And because they are coming, they gave a certain amount to come in here. Them they possess 16,000, and we must have double that here. And all this still encouraging because those who here will encourage the family to come and more come. The more they come in according to Stalin. So the authorities, yes, they have put something in place because they gave some their cards to stay for a while. But while they're staying here, they're encouraging the family and the friends to come because
Yeah, but Zena, you're missing a very important point. The point you're missing is that
the processing and
no, it's not. Why would someone want to leave their country to go to another country? Why?
Steve, we know that part,
No, I'm asking you a question. It's not I know that part. Why you think they want to leave Venezuela to come here?
And whether that is the case or not, how many will come? That is what I'm asking you, Steve. You want to be in them to be double the population.
You're not answering my question, Zena.
Because things must be happening.
Exactly.
Right here want to go and people right here want it hard. So how hard will it be? And I'm saying they're not coming here legally and say, well, okay, let's spend a month or two and go back. They are coming through the ports, the illegal ports of entry, by the boatloads every day and every night. And I'm asking how many will come before serious action is taken. Venezuela has a population of over 30 million people.
Mm-hmm.
This country have 1.4 of us. How many could we hold? And how many could the system thing? When I said what I said the last time, some one of them fellas call and talk about how I forget the word he used now, against the people. That is not the point. I'm talking about our crime, our hospitals, everything is overrun here.
Yeah.
And then you come and you misbehave and you can't behave because there are people like the party. They love the parang, they love the carnival, they love the fit, and they love the freedom here.
Mm-hmm.
But the authorities cannot allow them to overdo it now. So if you could pick up 200 in one night in one spot, what do you think for throughout the country? Is to send them home, and I find they have no right staying there and telling me about processing until you could misbehave down where they're keeping all you. Put all you on boat and send all you back. It have plenty fishing boat are wrong, and it have the same ones that bring them on the Coast Guard.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's closed.
All right. Well, when we have Gavin here right next hour, we'll talk to him about that. Good morning, Richie Rich. What's happening?
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Steve, and good morning to our listeners wherever you are.
You get a good buff this morning from your listeners.
About?
They say you need to buy a watch.
I begin work at 6:30. Maybe they need to know that.
Maybe I need to know that. I don't know about that.
Oh, well, now you know. So when I come before 6:30, it's, I'm coming on before 6:30. But
okay. I didn't even know that myself.
Well, now you know.
Now I know. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, sir. This is Chris Tusayo, Washington.
Hey, Chris, what's happening?
I'm all right.
Glad you called in.
People this morning sounding like Americans complaining about foreigners coming into the country. Everybody's going to find a place that they think is going to be better for them, and they're going to go however they could go. Right? The boats can't be coming back and forth from Venezuela is somebody not letting the boat pass, right? I mean, if that's the case, we might as well scrap the Coast Guard because they're not doing anything. But we went through the same things here in the 80s, where immigration would show up at parties and clubs and check people's status, and if you didn't have proper immigration documents, you'd get carted off. So, we feel in the pinch in Trinidad, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a difficult
Thank you,
situation.
Chris.
It is a difficult situation. And but yeah, you do feel a certain amount of empathy. At least I did feel a certain amount of empathy for the people the 200 that were arrested, because I was just wondering, well, do they have children home? Are there children that somebody is watching and all of a sudden their parents just don't come back because they are Venezuelan migrants who have children? And so those kinds of logistics I wondered about, where they are all living, whom have they left at home? Who does not know that they're not coming back home because they've been taken up by immigration? And I hear all the arguments about it's illegal and you're breaking the border and you're crossing the border illegally, and you have 28 million people living in Venezuela, even though that's reduced because I think about 3 million or 4 million have migrated. Of course, Trinidad is by far not the number one place they migrate to. They generally go to Colombia, Peru, Chile. Those are the main areas they go. Ecuador, Spain. Spain is one of the main ones they go to because a lot of them who come here, sadly, I know several who have come here simply by going to a restaurant and stuff, and also where did they go? And they went on to Spain. So I know oftentimes they use Trinidad as a transitory point to go elsewhere, whether it be the United States, whether it be Spain, whether it be other countries in the European Union, and they go elsewhere. But it's a difficult situation because it's a difficult situation home by them, even though there have been some people going back. So I don't know if things are easing up in Venezuela at this point to some level because some are going back. But still, it's something that we have to navigate. And we just have to navigate it with a sense of humanity because we know our Trinidad, as that caller just said, Trinidadians and Tobagonians who in North America have gone through many of them would have gone through circumstances like that where, you don't have, there are even Trinidadians and Tobagonians in New York right now or other cities in the United States who have been there for maybe 30, 40 years and still don't have their green card. Still don't have it. But they're there surviving. So it's about empathy. It's about the practicality of how you navigate the problem. It's not an easy problem to navigate, but you just have to be as human about it as possible. That's what I would say. Just have to be as human about it as possible. Because as people would say, people don't leave their countries just like that. They leave because there is a problem. And humankind has been migrating and being nomadic for years. I shouldn't even say for years. For thousands of years, mankind has moved across borders that didn't exist, that now exist. But there was a time when borders didn't exist like they do now. But we have always been a nomadic species that wherever we got hard, we moved. And you think that evolutionary trait just disappeared? People are going to move. If there was some massive crisis in Trinidad and Tobago, do you think that people wouldn't move? They would move. So it's how do you deal with it in a empathetic, human kind of way. So I know there'll be opinions on different sides of the fence with regard to that, especially the 200 people snatched up. And in a Trinidad and Tobago context, you wondered why. But I seen a message. Are they supposed to be walking with their cards, papers, and them at all times? For excuse by that activist. I don't know if they are supposed to. I guess you are supposed to be. Because I know when you used to visit Venezuela years ago, they used to tell you walk with your passport so that you could identify yourself, because the police or Guardia Nacional on the streets of Caracas could stop you and ask you for your ID or some proof of who you are. So I know when you used to visit Venezuela years ago, they used to tell you walk with your passport so you could identify yourself. So I suppose the similar things must be happening here. Carla Cupid says, clearly there must be some restrictions on the illegal immigration coming to our country, considering our citizens are treated in Venezuela. Well, I don't know how many of our citizens are going to Venezuela at this point. But certainly, if they're there illegally, they are very harsh. Well, you have to talk about the fishermen and the kinds of, I don't want to say squabbles, but interactions that we have when fishermen cross into those international waters.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the issue of immigration and illegal migration is something that countries grapple with. And you'll have those that are very hard about it, and you're going to have those who are empathetic about it. So you're going to have differing opinions in whatever space. So in the United States, there are some people who are very hardline about immigrants. They prefer that immigrants don't come at all, legally or illegally. They will say legal, but really, they really don't want immigrants at all, especially if they're non-white. Empathy. You could understand, you could chew gum and walk at the same time. And you could understand that there's a problem, and you could understand that people are going through what they're going through, and you can be empathetic towards it, but also understand there's a need for how do we regulate this? How do we deal with it? And the better question is Trinidad and Tobago dealing with it in a proper manner? If you have a judge just making a decision that the UNHCR Convention on Refugees that we would have acceded to in, I think, 2000, basically he's saying it has no effect in terms of people claiming refugee status or asylum status within the shores of Trinidad and Tobago, even though it's a UN convention we have acceded to in 2000. And he's saying it has no legal effect because it has not been incorporated into the domestic law. Then what are we doing? That's certainly his interpretation of it. I assume it will be appealed.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose he will appeal. I mean, not he. They will appeal, whoever it is that brought that case. But it comes back to the status of, if it is that let's go down the road, it needs to be incorporated into domestic law. Why hasn't it been? You occupy a space on the planet. There are going to be people who are going to come onto the shores that are going to seek asylum status or refugee status. And we have no infrastructure to deal with it, except a kind of ad hoc system that is being run by Living Waters and the Catholic ministries and the UNHCR here, waiting for people from New York to come down to assess whether somebody has a legitimate claim because they can't go back to whatever country because they'll be killed. We have no systems, and we are what? How far are we out from 1962? We are approaching August 31st. And we still don't have those systems in place to deal with refugees. It's a mixed bag.
It is. Good morning to you, Wendy Ann. Good morning, Mrs. R and Beauty Culture. And Celeste Cupid, good morning to you. Rena Budu Jennings, good morning to you as well. Thanks for logging on with us. All right, 43 after 6. Richard Papers?
I absolutely do.
All right, let's get into headlines, and then we get into our morning poll. We'll probably ask you about Venezuelans.
All right, so I could start with the Daily Express. The Daily Express for this morning. A malfunctioning transformer causes blackout at Mount Hope Hospital. Patients evacuated. That's the main headline. A Other subheadline: 6 cops on trial today, 12 years after friends murdered in Barrackpore. And there are pictures, insert photos of the 6 police officers. That's it for the main headlines on the front page of the Daily Express. I didn't know about that Mount Hope story. Steve, did you know about it?
I did not.
Patients evacuated. I'll probably touch on it a little bit. But anyway, on the back page of the Daily Express, not ready yet. Seals opens up about missing test series. Under 19 boys get first Rising Stars win. All of that is on the front page of the Daily Express and the back page. I'm moving on to the Guardian, the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian for today. Rowley takes dig at Kamla. That's the headline that the Guardian went with. Accuses her of undermining CARICOM, says region should ignore her claims of its ineffectiveness. Belmont residents still without water. And on the hustings, supporters of the National Transformation Alliance and the UNC walk along 10th Street, Barataria yesterday afternoon as the parties campaign for the local government election. So there's a picture of that. More criticisms of Imbert's handling of summit exemptions. Of course, these are exemptions to the Procurement Act. And of course, he's getting some feedback, some opposition to what he would have done. People are commenting on it. And on the back page of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian, referees want $650 per match. South Central Football Leagues on hold. All of that is on the back page. And the main pictures of Maloney Pacers, Jalicia Briggs, battles her way through NCA Warriors defense during the female basketball action. During the female basketball action. Under 21 semi-final match at the Maloney Indoor Complex. That's the main picture. Going on to the Newsday today, and on the front page of the Newsday, gunman opens fire in Arangwa's business place, murder in clothes store. At each newspaper had a completely different headline today. Completely different.
I'm not going to tell you that. I saw that yesterday, and I said, what?
Yeah. NTA and UNC in show of unity. And of course, this is, I think this is where they were walking in Barataria. So you may have seen them, Steve.
No, didn't see them.
And on the back
page, until like 7 o'clock last night. So
okay, well, now they were finished by then. I am.
Yeah.
On the back page of the Newsday, South Central Zonal Football referees clear the air. No strike, only negotiations. And that's it for us. Wait, unbeaten TT under 19 women face Leewards. And that's it for our 3 dailies this morning in Trinidad and Tobago. So now you know what the main stories are. They're all completely different on the 3 dailies this morning.
Yeah. All right. Why do you come up with a morning poll? Let me give you the results from our poll from yesterday. Yesterday, we asked you, do you think the Commissioner of Police needs to be seen and heard more in light of rising crime? That was our poll yesterday. The results are in. 86%, 86 said yes. The police commissioner needs to be seen and heard more with this rising crime situation. All right, Rich, you have a poll for us?
Well, so I just wanted to give a little contextual insight into the poll I'm about to ask.
Yeah, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
So the Minister of Finance, Com Imbert, he decided to exempt, or he issued an order to exempt the provision of goods and services for the just concluded CARICOM meeting from the procurement legislation. And of course, there's been, Saddam Hussein would have raised it, and I see Afram Raymond now weighing in on it. And they're saying that it should have been debated in Parliament. So do you think that the Minister of Finance needs to explain why he exempted goods and services for the CARICOM summit from the procurement legislation? So he issued an order so that the provision of goods and services for the CARICOM summit did not come under the procurement legislation, which of course is pretty rigid in how you do procurement, you have to use people that come who are in the depository, who have registered to be on the depository companies and stuff like that. So he exempted the CARICOM summit from the goods and services having to follow the procurement regulations. That is raising some furor. Do you think the Minister of Finance needs to explain why he exempted goods and services from the procurement legislation for the CARICOM summit? That's our poll this morning. Do you think he needs to explain, yes or no?
Yep. 222-8255. Toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099. Once again, our morning poll.
Do you think the Minister of Finance needs to explain why he exempted from the procurement legislation goods and services for the CARICOM summit, the recently concluded 50th celebration CARICOM summit, I might add? So goods and services provided for that conference did not come under the procurement legislation. Do you think he needs to explain why? Yes or no?
All right, give us a call. Send us a message via YouTube and our Power 102 platforms like our mobile app and our website at power102fm.com. Good morning to CJ out in New York. Thank you so much for joining us. Beauty Culture says yes to the poll. Good morning to Ms. Maloney. Mo Gaines. Good morning, Mo Gaines. Hell yes to the poll. Bless the all. Thank you, Mo Gaines. Good morning, caller. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Most definitely.
All right. Thank you. Good morning.
Yes to the poll.
Yes to the poll. Thank you so much, caller. All right. 222-8255. Toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099. You could send us your answer via mobile app and website or on YouTube. Do you think the Minister of Finance should explain why he exempted goods and services from the procurement legislature for the CARICOM summit?
Yeah.
Lando says
Procurement
yes.
legislation.
What says you, caller?
Good morning, Steve Samuel Gandhi. Yes. And Richard, I didn't know it as man Kate Birds. I'm hearing it in the background.
You're hearing them.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
This big guy. With respect to the Pocket Procurement Act, I think yes, you should explain.
You should explain. Thank you, big guy.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. All the best to you in New York. Mr. Carapo says yes, he should explain. Vernon Clark via YouTube just says yes to the poll. What says you, caller?
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. My answer is yes, due to proper communication. But just a question, Steve. Is your station bringing the press conference on the Ministry of Finance 9 o'clock today?
We should.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
All righty.
So do you think the Minister of Finance should explain why he exempted goods and services from the procurement legislation for the recent CARICOM summit? That's our poll this morning. 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, toll free at 866-525-1099. People on the web and the app, you know what to do. Come on, you do. And people in other parts of the planet, 1-868-222-TALK, 222-8255. Do you think the Minister of Finance should explain why he exempted goods and services from the procurement legislation for the CARICOM summit? That's our poll.
222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. Of course, on YouTube and our mobile app and website at power102fm.com. All right? You send us a message there as well.
So you have different people weighing on that. In the Trinidad and Tobago Transparency Institute chairman Reynald Cooper said, to promote good governance and transparency, the Minister of Finance should explain why the government took this decision to exempt the provision of services for events associated with visits by foreign heads of state, foreign heads of government, or foreign dignitaries to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. The Honorable Minister should also explain why the decision was taken at this time and for a period of 3 months. If the Honorable Minister does not explain the rationale for the decision, then there will be a perception. Then there will be a cause for concern, which may influence public perception. Afro Raymond also said that Carl Imber also owes the country an explanation. He stated via email that a strict reading of the 2020 amendments indicated that the minister has the power to make these extra amendments. He suggested that there could be a typo in the amendment since the actual text makes no sense when compared to the Hansard of Imber's statement to the Senate on December 8th, 2020. But it goes through more and more. I don't want to read all. But basically, do you think the ultimate question for our poll this morning is, do you think that the Minister of Finance needs to explain? Yes or no? That's our poll this morning.
Yep. All right. 5 minutes before the hour of 7 o'clock. D says, of course, yes. Thank you, D.
Of course, what is creating some consternation too is that the order was presumptively for the CARICOM summit, but it's for 3 months. And so some people are raising, well, the CARICOM summit was 5 days. Why is it for 3 months? So so that's also part of the issue.
All right. Vaughn Drayton says yes. Cynthia Ramsarup out in Vega says yes. Ms. Maloney says yes. Mogast, yes, he should explain. All right, thank you so much, Mogast and D.
So our poll this morning, and you can see it drifting across as the ticker tape on the screen. Do you think the Minister of Finance should explain why he exempted goods and services from the procurement legislation for the CARICOM summit? And as I just said, it's not just for the CARICOM summit. Well, it's presumptively for the CARICOM summit, but its efficacy is for 3 months. So do you think the Minister of Finance needs to explain why? Yes or no? What's your opinion? 222-TALK, 222-8255, North Americans, 866-525-1099. People on the web and the app, well, you know what to do. Just send your vote via the messaging portal on those platforms. And of course, people in other parts of the planet, 1-868-222-TALK, 222-8255. Do you think the Minister of Finance should explain why he exempted goods and services from the procurement legislation for the CARICOM summit? That's our poll this morning.
All right. Let's see. Any more votes coming through here? Yeah, send a vote. 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099.
Of course, Saddam Hussein, the opposition MP, indicated, well, part of the story ancillary to what we're talking about with Afro Raymond and the Trinidad and Tobago Transparency Institute, coming from the opposition point of view, Finance Minister Carl Imbert has been challenged to come to Parliament to explain why he made an illegal order to exempt goods and services contracted for last week's CARICOM heads of government meetings from the procurement legislation. Opposition MP Saddam Hussein made the call at a news conference at the opposition leader's Port of Spain office on Sunday. He questioned why the order was for a 3-month period when the CARICOM event was for 5 days, and further queried whether this was a tactic by the government to obtain funds for their local government election campaign. Of course, you know the opposition will go there. Hossain argued that the order was illegal because under the legislation, Parliament is required to debate and approve such orders brought by the minister for further exemptions to the Procurement Act. He said that the former Kamala Prasad-Bissessar government passed the Public Procurement Act during her administration. He noted it took the Keith Rowley-led government 8 years to fully proclaim. All right, so they're saying he's suggesting that it's an illegal order because it wasn't debated in Parliament, which is another issue, but that's not really the issue we're discussing. We're just asking whether you think the Minister of Finance needs to explain why goods and services for the CARICOM summit were exempted from the procurement legislation, and apparently for 3 months.
Yeah.
Yes or no? That's our
Lorna.
poll.
Good morning to Indy, Kali. Yes to the poll. Thank you so much, Lorna. Any more votes here? We have like 30 seconds again for you to vote. Let me just check here. All right, nothing there. All right, as we head up towards 7 o'clock, Evie is already in studio. She's going to move on my cables and put it in my bag. Right, and now she's going to pull the chair forward. I'm just painting a picture of Evie's every morning routine. All right, that's it. Let's get into our 7 o'clock news. It is exactly 7 o'clock. Major news starts right now with Evie on this, the 11th day of July.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley tells CARICOM states to ignore opposition leader Kamala Prasad-Bissessar. Patients in the intensive care unit at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex, Mount Hope, had to be evacuated yesterday following a power outage, and over 3,000 students registered for the Ministry of Education's Vacation Revision Program. Details in a moment. This is news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sintelbab. Good morning. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has told the CARICOM states to ignore opposition leader Kamala Prasad-Bissessar. Dr. Rowley has defended the CARICOM community against the critique of the opposition leader, urging the rest of the region to ignore her insincerity. Via Facebook yesterday, Dr. Rowley responded to Prasad-Bissessar's statement on July 8th that the bloc should have achieved more in its 50 years of existence. Taking offense, Dr. Rowley accused Prasad-Bissessar of seeking to dampen the mood, as she noted that CARICOM demonstrated its unity and diplomatic clout by celebrating for 1 week, attracting the presence of TNT's major trading partners. While he accused her of attempting to undermine the regional body, the Prime Minister said CARICOM nations should disregard her sentiments. He went on to list moments where he felt the opposition leader demonstrated a lack of support for CARICOM, beginning with her comments on July 6, 2010, that TNT was not an ATM card. Patients in the intensive care unit at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex in Mount Hope had to be evacuated yesterday following a power outage due to a malfunctioning transformer. Reports indicate that other medical services were also affected. Chief Executive Officer of the North Central Regional Health Authority, Davlin Thomas, told the Express that 2 weeks ago there were upgrades to the transformers at the hospital. He said they had to load shed to mitigate for their critical patients. Thomas said 8 ICU patients were transferred to the Arima Hospital. However, he also disclosed that the hospital was working last night to get a second transformer hooked up and functioning. The hospital had access to about 9 ambulances to transfer patients, he noted. Thomas emphasized that the evacuation of patients was done to mitigate against any problems with these patients. He said there was emergency power on the hospital's ward as generators were working. The Tobago House of Assembly is being urged to develop its resources and investment in a bid to place itself in a good financial position. It's advice coming from President of the Tobago Business Chamber, Martin George. Speaking during the afternoon Power Drive program on Power 102 Digital on Monday, Mr. George suggested the Assembly should focus on doing activities which will eventually lessen its dependence on central government. Mr. George used the example of a child who is dependent on a parent for their survival in terms of the provision of shelter and money. However, he added when someone is in a position to provide for them, this places them in a better situation to strive and become independent.
Forget this question of asking for autonomy and asking for independence. You know what you need to do? Start developing your resources, your investments, so that you can now gain your own financial independence. Because it's the same way. If you are living as a child under your parents' roof and you are dependent on mommy and daddy for food, clothing, shelter, transport, etc., then you are not independent. But when you become a man and you are grown up and you're earning your own money, you could say, well, look, I want to buy a car, I want to go and rent an apartment, or I want to buy a house.
Chief Executive Officer of the Catholic School Board, Sharon Mangru, says she's looking to the day when the secondary entrance assessment is just another assessment and is not given the amount of prominence it is being given now. During an interview with Power 102 Digital on Monday, Ms. Mangru expressed confidence this could be achieved when all schools are recognized as good schools, adding more work has to take place for this to happen. She said she hoped children would be placed in schools near to their homes in a bid to reduce the time they spend on the road in traffic. In addition, Ms. Mangru also articulated the need for students to enjoy subjects they have an interest in.
You know, people talk about part of the discussion about the year was somebody mentioned coming into school and seeing children combing each other's hair. But you know, in the CDQ for hairdressing, if people have an interest, if this is the interest, certainly why not encourage it? Just force everybody into being doctors and lawyers and what? You know, stop that. It's time for us to move away from it.
Over 3,300 students have registered for the Ministry of Education's Vacation Revision Program, which commenced Monday in 80 primary schools across Trinidad. The VRP primary runs from July 10th, 2023 to August 11th, 2023, and caters for students entering Standards 4 and 5 in September 2023. It features classes in mathematics, English language arts, and English language arts writing, along with weekly sessions in dance, drama, and music. Over 90% of the tutors selected for the VRP primary are a part of the cohort of over 650 teachers trained in remedial teaching of reading, writing, and mathematics by the University of Trinidad and Tobago during this academic year 2022-2023. Education Minister Dr. Nayan Gadsby-Dolly has said in 2022, the VRP secondary was launched catering for students entering Form 1. In 2023, the VRP primary has been added to the Ministry of Education's offerings at 80 primary schools under the ministry's remedial education program. This is yet another measure to provide additional academic and psychological support to our students and parents who need it most. The Ministry of Education's after-school tuition program operated at these primary schools throughout academic year 2022-2023, and continuity is now offered by the VRP primary, providing ample opportunities for students to be positively engaged and for the mitigation of learning loss, which is still affecting students, some disproportionately based on their COVID-19 experience, according to the Education Minister. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. Well, finally, here is weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, partly cloudy to cloudy conditions with occasional showers and a medium chance of isolated thunderstorms favoring early morning and the afternoon. Conditions are expected to settle by the evening to give a generally fair night. Gusty winds and street flooding likely in the event of a heavy downpour. Look out for a forecast maximum temperature of 32 degrees Celsius at Piarco International Airport and 31 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, it is 27 degrees Celsius at both localities. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley tells CARICOM states to ignore opposition leader Kamla Persaud-Bissessar. Patients in the intensive care unit at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex in Mount Hope had to be evacuated yesterday following a power outage, and over 3,000 students registered for the Ministry of Education's Vacation Revision Program. I'm Avril Sintel-Bab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail coming up at 12 noon today and an update coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
Alrighty, it is 9 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock. Thank you, Avril, for our major news. You can join again at 8 o'clock for our news brief. All right. Quickly, let's take a look at what's happening on the highways and on the byways. See if any traffic now. Let's see. Let's see. Trinidad City towards Uwe, you've got some traffic. And then from the interchange to Portiswade, also got some traffic. Eastern Main Road is not too bad at all. Only around the San Juan area, you will get traffic. Nothing on the Marvan, nothing on the Dago. Let's head down south. Make our way up north. South, nothing really to tell you about. Riverland Road, heading towards Couva and California and Point Lisas. That is a sticky one. Apart from that, nothing to tell you about. Salo, Uriah, Oil, Clear. All right. All right, so let's get the results of our morning poll. Let me just check to see if we have any more. More guest was the last one there. Let me just do a fresh. Yep. All right, let's do a fresh. It's taking long. Internet must be slow today. Yeah. Normally zip by. Okay, here we go. Getting some magic happening. Yeah, Mo Guest was the last one. And yeah. All right, Richie Rich.
I just took the votes from YouTube. I just took the votes from YouTube. They had some votes coming in there. So our poll this morning was, do you think that the Minister of Finance needs to explain why he exempted goods and services from the procurement legislation from the recent
with Garvin here. He's already logged in.
For the recently concluded.
We'll chat with him.
You're not hearing me?
Somebody Venezuelan issue as well.
Are you hearing me?
Ready to go?
Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
You're on mute. Oh, sorry, that's my fault. Go ahead.
Right, so I said I got some of the votes from YouTube too, so in terms of overall calculation. So our poll this morning, do you think the Minister of Finance needs to explain why he exempted goods and services from the procurement legislation for the CARICOM Summit, the recently concluded CARICOM Summit? We had 20 people voting on the poll this morning, and that includes all the votes from YouTube. And of the 20 people, every single person said yes, he needs to explain. There were no negative votes. So it's one of those polls where everybody agreed on a certain line. Right. So everybody said yes. Of course, you can continue to vote on this poll throughout the day through our programming, and we'll give you the final results tomorrow morning, which will be Wednesday and midweek, believe it or not. So that's what it is.
I am all right. So let's bring in our guest into the program. I know he's logged on. I don't know if he's there. He is. Garvin Hira, Commander Garvin Hira. Morning to you, pal. How are you?
Hi, morning, Steve. Morning, Richard. Morning to the support team. Morning, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm fine.
Morning. How art thou? Everything good with you?
Well, yes. You have to stay on the upside.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show. It's just Richard and myself this morning, so this will be highest rated program out.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, Gavin. We appreciate you taking the time. You're a busy guy.
Yes.
Yeah. So of course, if you wanted to touch on the conversation that was that we were having this morning concerning the Venezuelan nationals that were seized at that club, the 200, roughly. I think it's 150 to 200, some vicinity like that. Yeah. I think they're now being held at the heliport in Chagaramas, and they're of course not too happy, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. And what's your take on it? Because some of the responses that we got from our listeners this morning was the issue of crime, and that they are contributing to the crime or can possibly be contributing to the criminal element, etc., etc. So some didn't have a problem. If you're here illegally and you need to be deported, there are laws, you need to go back, blah, 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 blah. So you had that narrative from some of our callers. So I don't know, what's your take on it from a security perspective?
Well, I think from a security, most of a homeland security perspective, it's a good move to see combined law enforcement involved in operations like that. It would have taken a lot of planning and intelligence gathering to zone in to quote unquote a raid of that magnitude with regards to arresting and processing in excess of 200 people. And what I would add to that, however, and I have continued to say that in different corners, Rich, is capacity building to deal with the illegal migrant situation, and housing and holding 200 quote unquote illegal migrants for the aspect of deportation and processing. It's a meticulous process, and I'm not too sure whether we have capacity to do that. And when you have overload on certain capacities, be it a cyber issue, which I hope we probably might even touch, or in a capacity of human beings, there is room for breaches and for breaks and for things to go in the wrong direction. So we have to now seriously consider capacity building if we are going to continue the in-country enforcement. But yes, there may be some snippets where there might be contributions to crime and illegal activity. But I don't think it's that much yet. But it's important to nip it in the bud and to bring control and to show more or less to the citizenry that we are taking action. So I thought it was a good operation, and I thought it was well planned and executed.
Yeah, but I take your point about the infrastructure and the capacity building, which we seem to have neglected. Not only now, but for years. But even with the onset of this crisis in Venezuela, we still have not seemed to be urgent about building that kind of capacity that you're suggesting.
Yeah, you're quite correct. And I think we had the same conversation some time back, could be about 2 years ago, regarding the border control management. And when you are instituting proper border control management outside of your maritime domain awareness and air security and all of that, and inclusive of customs and immigrations, it is also to deal with arrivals and departures to ensure that your system's driven, ensure that you have the infrastructure and the manpower, and that you have carefully thought it out, just as you advised, into the geographic zones that are high trafficked. And if we have identified Chagaramas heliport as such of one of those infrastructures, there should have been and should probably still have, there's room to do that now, and proper planning and implementations now to deal with improvising and making this a structure for such a purpose and not a sort of holding bay. You get the impression it's like a holding bay. Is it a holding bay, or are we in fact going to establish it as a structure identified for our migrant issue, aligned to part of our border control management policy?
Yeah, it seems at least I think the average person, it seems as if it's a holding bay. It doesn't seem like it's a proper processing facility.
Yeah, and I think
it comes across like that.
I think we reached to the point now, if we are going to be consistent with our in-country enforcement, that we have to move from the concept of holding bay to a proper infrastructure that can process, that can hold, provide medical, provide all of the necessary human rights, what I'll call services, but also security-wise, so that such a structure can be used as the next stepping point to movement of people back to their homelands.
Yeah. Well, coming to the now I'm segueing across to something completely different, which is the CARICOM Summit, which celebrated 50 years of CARICOM. They have suggested that they're going to increase the CSME or freedom of movement to be almost that there'd be no job that you couldn't move across the Caribbean in terms of the participating countries, which I suppose may raise some security issues before it's enforced. I think they're giving themselves till March 2024. So which may raise some security issues in light of the criminal element that has surfaced across the Caribbean. And also the issue of CARICOM Corporation and the US corporation with regard to the issue of guns and gun trafficking out of the United States into the Caribbean region. And of course, if we want to be very specific to the shores of Trinidad and Tobago and how it's affecting us. What's your take on, in terms of those decisions made from CARICOM, in terms of the assistance being offered by the United States, in terms of changing the picture of crime, specifically in Trinidad and Tobago? But if you wanted to take it broader in terms of the CARICOM, then fine, I'll listen to that too.
Yeah, to be quite truthful, looking on and as a regional security expert, I applaud the decision. I think it's always good that we can provide those bridges through the Caribbean states for us to have free movement of people. But I want to say something, looking at that is one thing, but that's a heavy lift. Might not be seen to many people. That's a heavy lift because it's not just a statement of we want to encourage the CSME and have free movement of people. You are so correct. And I think it's because, we have had the sidebar discussions, Rich. This will carry a significant security centric sort of conversation, brainstorming, think tank, working plan, parallel to this whole aspect of the Foreign and CARICOM Affairs decision, because security for the movement of people, yes, and who's coming over to your country, any proper meticulous checks and balances, we understand that. But security with regard to information sharing and, of course, that sort of investigative jurisdiction to be able to have access regarding investigations. I just want to say something on this. It's a good decision. I want to speak about the security aspect in case I forget this other one. If we are doing that for the free movement of people, one of the first things we need to consider too is airfare. It's unbelievable what are some of the airfares just to get to Grenada, for instance, a 25, 30-minute flight from here, or Barbados, or even some of the other islands. Some people have thought, well, you know what? If I have to pay so much money just to get to the Caribbean, best I go Miami, yes? Best I go New York and get a good flight, jump on a JetBlue and get a special or something. So we have to encourage that movement by also looking at probably reducing our airfare, or if it is by maritime access, also introducing some nice ferries and stuff to move in and out of the islands. I'm just saying that because it's amazing how expensive it is just to fly to another. If you want to be a Caribbean tourist this morning and you said, you know what? I best I go to North America, I'm going to get a special flight and head out to Miami and spend all that money just to go 25, 30 minutes away. Just needed to say that. So regards to the security aspect of it, Rich, I have advocated, done some research, actually presented it in a couple forums, that then if we are going that way, we need to seriously consider the formation, the establishment of the CBI, the CARICOM Bureau of Investigations. I would have said it before. So this would parallel along the Federal Bureau of Investigations out of the US. So we'll have some similar best practices culturally applicable to our island states, but also have a unit that can investigate in any one of the islands. So you would not have to be using your divisional police system. They will take care of the interior and the internal security, but you have a unit that can access all of the islands, conduct investigations, treat with things like, yes, the small arms trade, but transnational organized crime, movement of people, counter narcotics, and corruption. A big one, corruption and white-collar crime that seems to be evading us can now be investigated with a properly resourced unit that is paralleling along an international best practice.
Yeah, because that whole issue of transnational crime must be featuring in the minds of CARICOM leaders in terms of that decision being made. I mean, I know it was a 50-year point, and of course, Caribbean peoples can have a somewhat conflicted and mixed or jaded view of CARICOM and how it affects their lives.
Correct.
And certainly, I think freedom of movement is something that CARICOM people probably would want, that you could move across and work wherever you want. But you're right that there are corollary security issues that run alongside it.
Yeah, and it must not be a deterrent. I don't think it should be a negative or a speed bump. It should really be a flag that is raised to show that we are looking at this thing in 360 degrees, making informed decisions. The CBI, the Caribbean-based incentive, that aspect of North America and some of our European nations supporting within the security of the Caribbean basin is also something that we take into account when it comes to this, because it is not only movement of our Caribbean people if this highway opens, but it is also the movement of investors, money movement. People want to invest in all the other countries coming from external countries. So we have to have the right layers of security, Rich, in order to ensure that this is done and transitioned with transparency.
Do you think that kind of conversation is happening?
I'm yet to see, because I know we like to make all those nice, fancy pronouncements, and we don't follow up with proper thinking, with a proper forum, for instance, a symposium to treat specifically with that, so that action items can be done, identified subject matter experts can come in and support, and we can have by May or March 24, whatever was the date, a ready to roll sort of approach and not an excuse. So I don't think it's happening with the fervency that we would have expected at this point.
All right. Well, I mean, we have some months, so let's see what happens in terms, at least in terms of this security, security aspect of it. And I see the value of what you're suggesting with the Caribbean
CBI.
What did you call it? What the CBI? The Caribbean.
No. CARICOM Bureau of Investigation.
CARICOM Bureau of Investigation. Yeah, the CBI. Okay. So I can see the value of something like that, because you would need to be able to mobilize quickly, even though, of course, I suppose, like in the United States, you're going to have jurisdictional conflicts at certain points.
Yeah.
At certain points with regard to local police forces are saying, no, this is our territory, we're investigating this, and the CBI officers sweeping in and saying, no, we're taking control of this. You know, you have to sort out all of those intersecting egos, so to speak.
It's the kind of conversation, Richard, that we need to have, and we need to start and work out the rough edges. And as I said, maybe, and I always like to use the term, a sort of pilot project approach, and use the lessons learned to extend throughout the region. It will identify the region with some sort of self-sufficiency and non-dependency, as we have grown to be accustomed to.
Right. Getting back home, and of course, the crime situation in Trinidad is challenging, depressing, depending on who you ask. I mean, Trinidadians and Tobagoans, I think it's the number one issue. I know it's the number one issue that concerns citizens across Trinidad and Tobago. You had the recent, if I may just tax you a little bit, we had the recent video evidence of the shooting in Marval, by that Marval Plaza, where one person, I assume you must have seen that video, where one person, of course, exited out of the back door, ran down some steps to the garage underneath, the parking garage, and you had these gunmen exit their vehicle and shoot at the vehicle, etc. What we were noting yesterday, and I said particularly Wendell, I think it was that the gunmen moved with a certain confidence in terms of how they approached the vehicle. They were calm. They weren't, just running, shooting, and running back. They kind of strode confidently, shot, and then strode confidently back to the vehicle and then drove off. Does that raise any issues in your mind? How did you interpret it, being a security professional?
Yeah, I think the word that Wendell probably wanted to use was precision. And not so much confidence. There was a lot of precision in how they operated, which tells you two things. One, that sometimes these guys may be exposed to some kind of training, or somebody's training them or working with them. We now have in country what it seems like trained assassins. People, we know we have shooters and killers, and guys are taking $5,000 and new sneakers, that type of stuff, to shoot at people. But we are seeing a different type of executions now with this sort of precision. We have seen some armed robberies and carjackings where people have exited vehicles, and the way they would have operated showed that, there is an exposure here to training. I don't know if it's the University of YouTube, or if it is that, we have people now who are trained who have involved themselves into the criminal lifestyle and are in fact training criminals and gangsters with the use of weapons and how to shoot and what to do and what not to do. That's a serious concern. Law enforcement would need to be looking deeply into this and using the right sort of covert measures to confirm or deny what we are discussing. But more importantly, because of where it took place, and we tracked back 2 weeks ago, we would have seen where in the middle of the day in Trinity Mall, a busy Saturday, another shooting, and of course execution style. So what it signals to me, however, and we've probably heard this echoed throughout the last couple of weeks, is that there seems to be a blatant disregard here now for law enforcement, a blatant disregard for authority, and a disregard for human life. And you know, the code has been broken. We have 80-year-olds being beaten and robbed. We have 5-year-olds running in the streets because the one side is shooting at another side. The code has been broken, and these guys have total disregard here now for authority and for law enforcement.
You know, coming back to that Trinity Mall murder, which was Yank Boss. This is a Saturday afternoon in Trinity Mall. Explain to me, Garvin, how there is no video footage of this. Because usually, you would have hundreds, if not thousands of people at Trinity Mall at that point on a Saturday afternoon. People must have been milling about. I get it that people will run for cover when they hear the gunshots, etc. But we always somehow manage to get footage. Somehow, does Trinity Mall not have video footage because they have cameras across the car parks? And yet you've heard nothing about that. You have gotten no update from the TTPS with regard to that issue, which I know when we were discussing it previously on this program, we were rather concerned about that TTPS didn't have a press conference on the issue. Not because it was Yank Boss, but because it was in a mall. Correct. On a Saturday afternoon. The space in where it's located, and of course, Yank Boss is important. I mean, he was a high-profile social media influencer.
Correct.
That a lot of people, you know, followed. And so the brazenness of it and the connection, the interconnection with social media has to be disturbing, but yet you've heard the TTPS, at least I am not aware. Let me put that way. I'm not aware that the TTPS has said anything about it at all, and it's a murder that you are worried will become one of those murder statistics that just drift into the past, and you never know who did it.
Yeah. It's saddened to think that we haven't heard anything, or at least a progress of the investigations. Not so much because, you're right, it's the profile of the person that was killed, but more importantly, a busy business center or mall center, shopping center, where you had children crossing the car park. You had, you know, and you had busy traffic. And I would have done some articles recently, you know, talking about active shooter, and you know, we don't have the scenario as related to the North American situation of active shooter, armed people walking into schools or to business places and opening fire. But we have these perpetrators opening fire in civil streets, in mall car parks, in business places. It is considered the same sort of mentality of the killer. And therefore, we have to be very, very prepared as citizens now that any minute, anywhere you're buying some Chinese food, or you're buying a gyro, or you're at a mall, or you're in a car park, there can be a shooting situation, and you will now have to take cover. What do you do? So apart from that critical concern for the citizenry, I thought by now we should have been hearing what is the progress of the investigations, and is it that Trinity Mall has no cameras, or is it that this was so well planned and executed that he was drawn to this specific area where the camera was not working, where they know that there would not have been any footage, you know, because of the conversation that he might have had on his cell phones. I hope they're probably manipulating and getting intrusively into his cyber space to see what was the mock-up to this. Vehicles approached the mall from various angles and drive-ins, you know, entrances. So was the escape vehicle tracked on its entrance and its departure to where it was going? Did we pick that up on some of the other highway cameras? Hey, we're asking the questions where you recreate the crime scene. This is something that was done. Are we now practicing recreation of crime scenes so as to tell what and who might have been involved in homicides?
Exactly, and you know, and you know what? I don't know if it escapes the TTPS that giving us that kind of information and giving us updates, especially for a lot of these murders, and the how close you are to getting to somebody or to holding somebody accountable, builds confidence.
Yeah.
It builds confidence in part in the citizenry, but it also weakens the confidence of the criminal element.
Correct.
If they know that they're going to be accountable, if they realize that, look, we can be tracked and we will be caught. So it's a win-win situation in terms of giving us that kind of information. But yet you hear nothing, so you feel nothing is happening.
Exactly. You hear nothing, you see nothing, so you feel nothing. And that is not a deterrent to the criminal as we would have hoped. That is an encouragement to the criminal now to continue along his criminal activity, where we should, and we understand, and you being a practitioner, you'll know that too, Rich. You know, we understand that you have to put guardrails up and you can't reveal everything that is involved in an investigation. You can't take people into the bedrooms, but you can at least do a sort of FYI for your information so people are kept abreast. Plastered across our billboards, for instance, should be pictures of that escape vehicle taken from our traffic lights or whatever, or some of our other business areas or cameras that might have picked it up on the highway, so that people would have been aware and criminals would have been aware. Wait a minute, if we commit a crime and we are driving away, the CCTV grid, our national grid, is so well structured that we can be followed based on the route that we are taking. You know, that is a deterrent, so people start thinking twice now for believing that they can just have control to do their criminal activities in open space and in busy areas with innocent, law-abiding citizens that traversing the traffic there, you know?
Yeah. You know, and I know for a lot of Trinidadians and Tobagonians, the crime situation is pretty depressing because you hear murders every day virtually, and you hear criminal activities taking place virtually every day. And it just seems like it's never ending. How do we fix this, Garvin? How do we fix this?
Well, I thought that we had the right fixing people in place, and we're hoping that, you know, they know what they are about and they're doing it. But when we look at the evidence that is before us, or we look at the efficiency measurements that is before us, you know, people will start asking questions of whether or not we're achieving our objectives. I think, Rich, to be quite truthful, Steve, what we need to look at is short, medium, long term. And right now, our short term needs some, and I said it yesterday in another place, needs some strong operational tactical approaches. We need, right now, we don't have a voice, a system, and a unit or approach that is striking fear into the hearts of the criminal. We don't. And therefore, somebody, somewhere, some system needs to stand up and to speak in such a way to let the criminals know we are coming for you. We understand what is happening, and you bring that threat under control, but you follow up by what you are saying with good, strong, well-executed strikes. That is what is expected. We understand the where you are and the who you are, and we are going to come for you. There needs to be a voice that will be able to stand up and say that. If it cannot be our commissioner, then she needs to have the right person alongside her, or the right system, or the right unit. You know, before people would think, hey, those guys are rolling, boy, you know, we need to take it down. You know, you find the criminal talking about units or people, and there was a fear for certain type of operations. We don't have that anymore. And I'm saying Trinidad and Tobago needs that. That voice needs to stand up now to be able to tell the criminal that, you know, we know who you are and we are coming for you. And you send that message, and you send a strong message, because if you look at, and we have seen it, the type of weaponry that these guys have equipped themselves with, what we will call the resources that they are equipping themselves with, they are prepared to engage law enforcement, you know. They are prepared for a firefight. So I am saying, if it's a fight you want, a fight you're going to get. And let that voice say that, and do that in your short terms to show some control, bring the thing under control, so that we can at least start rebuilding society with a semblance of safety and security. We're not hearing that voice.
No, we're not. I agree with you. We're not hearing that voice. And are you willing to take some calls, by the way, Gavin?
Of course, yes.
Yes, we can open up the lines while we're having the discussion, so that you can get interactive in the discussion to our viewers and listeners. So 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, toll free at 866-525-1099. people on the web and the app, well, you can send your messages, but before you call at this point. So 222-TALK, 222-8255. Of course, we are talking to Garvin Hira, and we're talking security, we're talking crime, we're talking how do we fix this? Yeah, so I mean, I hear you, and I hear that kind of voice that starts to stoke and the psychological effect on the criminal element, which seems to be absent at this point. In terms of you don't get the sense that the criminal element is running scared. You don't.
No, and you don't get the sense that there's any proactive or predictive work taking place. I mean, yes, we're having the raids like you saw with the Venezuelans and stuff, but there needs to be an all-round consistency with our approach to operations, and we need to move away from the knee-jerk reactions of reaction, response, reaction, response. We need to see some strong proactive operational tactical theatering of police work, including law enforcement.
But look at the Marval with the Mercedes on the weekend. Those guys came out of the car, took their time, did what they had to do, strolled back to the car, and calmly drove off.
Yeah, Richard was just talking about it, and I said it was more or less precision. You could have seen a well-planned precision that was executed, and it tells you the level of ability now with the shooters and those guys. They're driving alongside vehicles and opening fire and killing drivers. And guys,
that happened on the Young Road this weekend.
Yeah, it takes a certain type of capability to do that.
But where these ammunitions coming from? There must be intel.
Yeah.
All right, we do have some calls, so let's go straight to our lines. Good morning, caller. Short and sweet.
Good morning to your
morning,
Mr. Hira.
Morning, team.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the issue of weapons, because I was looking at a recent video involving a black car and some guys coming out with some very long weapons to carry out the execution. And my big question is, where are these guns coming from? Where those things should be really concerned for the people of Trinidad. And thanks always for your expert advice.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
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 Hi. Hi. Advid caller, first-time caller. Advid listener, sorry, first-time caller. And I was prompted to call this morning because your guest, as well as a lot of guests in the past, going talking about what people in authority should do and should not do. But nobody talked about firing anybody. Nobody talked about accountability. Everybody stays in their job after the chaos has happened and everything's cooled down and the discussion changed. If we don't fire people, we would not get the correct people in the position that we need them to be in. Two things we can do in terms of the police service: get rid of the police service commission and give the responsibility to the commissioner of police, the person who is most responsible to the community of Trinidad. And that, in a nutshell, because the size of our country would be the Prime Minister. This is my view.
All right. Thank you, caller.
I wasn't clear on that view, Is it that he's saying that ultimately it's the Prime Minister who has to fire? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think what he's saying, which is a point that needs to be applauded, he's bang on in that, sometimes the guests will come, including myself, and we talk about what is happening, what is not happening, what should be happening, but we don't get to the point of, hey, if you're not doing the job, then you need to be fired. But I want to encourage the caller that his thought process is actually correct. I would have said on a number of other occasions that we need to adopt a project governance approach. And a project governance approach means that if I give you $100 to do a job and you're expecting to do that job in 2 weeks' time, and in 2 weeks' time you do not accomplish your objective, you do not do the job, then heads will roll. Then from the accountability aspect, it means that you have to be moved out and somebody has to be moved in who can do the job. That project governance approach gives a firm hand and holds executives towards achieving their objectives over the timelines and the costing that you projected. So I think the caller is on. I'm not too sure about the Prime Minister and all that kind of stuff, but what he's saying is that if you can't do the job, then you will have to be removed and bring somebody else who can do it under the costing that you said that it should have been done.
All right. Good morning, caller.
Good morning to your host.
Yeah, morning, big guy.
Good morning. I'm calling from New York. So, Mr. Hero.
Morning.
There's something good morning. There's something I'm trying to find out if it's against the law. When there is a robbery up here in New York, or murder, or hit and run, whatever, once there's proper footage, camera footage, it is displayed on all the stations in the morning, all at lunchtime, and in the evening. By the end of the day, if you did not know that person, you have a record. You can see that person in your mind, and you can see that person. And these people have been caught within 3 to 4 days. Why isn't it on the TV6 News or TDT or CNC? Why isn't the police, if they have CDPS, have footage, not showing it? Because there is a YouTube station show at 6 every evening on Trinidad that is showing footage and is having some sort of success. Is it against the law for the broadcast stations in Trinidad to show this footage?
Rich, I don't, Richard, I don't know.
I don't think there's a law against it.
No.
To show footage of what? The crime itself? The vehicle?
And the facial recognition of the perpetrators.
But they do it sometimes they do it. Sometimes they show you what has happened. I don't think they're consistent.
Yeah.
Because I think people are being caught in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, caller, I agree with you.
Which is kind of what you were talking about, Gavin.
That
if it is that you use the billboards, that this vehicle is being tracked, and it goes up and it goes up on the billboards and social media instantaneously, because social media is even more powerful than a terrestrial television station at this point, because it gets into everybody's hands immediately.
Yeah.
Not everybody's necessarily going to sit down to watch news.
No, the caller is correct. You see, what he's saying is that it is a part of the procedures, the operational procedures of law enforcement to bombard and flood all of the necessary systems and mediums with facial recognitions or with vehicles and that type of stuff, so that everyone is aware. And with that awareness, everyone now becomes vigilant. We have not made it a sort of mandatory procedure here in Trinidad. It happens. There's a lack of consistency. I almost mentioned the West Indies team. Almost. All
right, big guy. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. 222-8255, toll-free North Americans, 866-525-1099. All right. Give us a call. Of course, our guest is Commander Gavin Hira, and we are talking security a bit. And I'm coming back to my point. There must be some intel where all these ammunitions are coming from.
Well, I know we've had some pronouncement out of the U.S. system that they're working closely now with our law enforcement agencies and trying to work on that whole aspect of it coming out of the U.S. You see, what we have to understand is that counter narcotics has used the same channels and transshipment routes out of South America through transshipment points up to North America and to Europe. And they have done all that they can to block that product from coming from this region to their shores. So therefore, what I would advocate is that we need to see that same sort of firm approach to block products coming out of the U.S. shores into our region, because it's the same route and it's the same channel, and who knows, maybe it's the same sort of players that are involved in this. But outside of U.S. experts working closely with our Trinidad law enforcement, I think what we need to see more importantly is we need to see the formation probably of some sort of firearm interdictions unit that has a sort of all agency collaboration involving our strong support with our international allies, and treat specific go at firearms, go at the source, not only trying to take firearms off the streets, but preventing firearms from arriving on the shores, which involves, again, back to our border control, immigration, customs, national security, intelligence agencies, and our foreign agencies. Because when we had a threatened country at one time, there was a threat that everybody was brought to their knees on, and that was kidnapping. The anti-kidnapping unit, along with the special anti-crime unit, formed up a specific focus, and we went hard at kidnappings to bring that under control with a series of arrests, and of course with extradictions. We saw people being arrested and taken to face matters abroad. So therefore, I am saying it's the illegal arms in country. Let us do a specially focused sort of unit to treat exactly what we are saying here and bring this thing down, so that so including our foreign counterparts. Other than this, we have investigations in all of the other divisions dealing with firearms, trying to take firearms off the street and running raids in buildings and finding them in the sheds and stuff. We want to prevent the firearms from even arriving on the country in the hands of these perpetrators. So it's going to take an all-out 360 degrees type of investigation. That takes an all-out 360-degree type of unit and expertise and investigative processes.
So do you think that because when Anthony, the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, out of the United States, of course, was here at the CARICOM conference, he did indicate that the Department of Justice in the U.S. Has just assigned a Caribbean firearms prosecutor to deal specifically with the issue of gun trafficking to the Caribbean. Do you think that that's a good move and that's going to help?
It's a good move because it's going to take care of the judiciary hurdles and the court issues and all of that. But matters have to reach the court based on investigations. Stones need to be overturned. Investigations are going to take a lengthy process in order to make it now arrestable and, of course, prosecutorial. So what he has said is good, but he has talked about the end state. We want to talk about the progression to get there. And in order to get there, it will involve investigations, intelligence, arrest, and, of course, the right sort of evidence gathering that can stand up in the court of law. That will take a specific investigations operational arm to do that.
You know, the caller that called and talked about accountability and the issue of people being fired, it goes back to that issue, Garvin, of the rogue element that occupies our security infrastructure. And there is clear evidence that suggests that they exist. Why haven't we been able to get a handle on that? And why aren't we seeing more people being fired as a result of that or being held accountable? I'm not saying that there are not some being held accountable, but certainly more, because the history of those rogue operatives in the security infrastructure is years old, if not decades old. Yeah. And it's an important component in the fight.
Yeah, and you're advocating strongly there for probably a tributary capability of the CBI, because in that way we would not have to rely on the local system to investigate the local system, but we will have a sort of Caribbean-based system that can investigate such actions of rogue officers. But you know, the PSB has done a great job regarding to the police service, including the PCA. But we have the defense force, we have customs, we have immigration, we have prisons. Who's treating with the rogue officers are the rogue elements within those infrastructures. So therefore, I say, if we can go the way of the CBI at this point, then we take some of the good working parts of the PSB and the PCA, and we look at a national sort of unit that can investigate all elements of national security, all arms of the Ministry of National Security, where there may be rogue elements. So it wouldn't be like just the Professional Standards Bureau or the PCA for the police service, who a national system to investigate all of the elements, so that we combine the investigative approach and have a firm decision on not only how we're going to investigate people, but when we investigate them and they are found guilty and they're brought before the courts, how we are going to treat with them as for incarceration and punishment. Because what we've seen is a lot of suspensions and transfers and rotations, and then people are back in the system. One or two have actually made it into being incarcerated. So we have to we begin with the end in mind and we work backwards, but I think we need to just elevate it up a little bit beyond the PSB and the PCA to a national capability.
All right. Thanks for holding, caller. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Our breakfast team. I am a concerned citizen, and I hear my views being reflected this morning on severally different places and times of the apparently unchecked level of illegal migrants coming into our land. It's a cause for concern because it's all in your face. Arima, where I live, I go Chabonas, I go San Fernando, I go Chagaramas, I see relatively huge numbers of illegal immigrants. I am saying it appears to me that our leaders are numerically challenged in that If these numbers continue unchecked, the ratio of illegal immigrants to citizens could become overbalanced to the point where in the future we could have a civil war in this country. And I'm very concerned about that. What is Commander Hero's views about a critical ratio by which we need to act, by which we should ensure that this illegal immigration problem is buckled down, is put to an end? Thank you.
Well, I would tell the caller that maybe he peeped into my notes, because I've been saying that when I look at the ratio of the population of Venezuela, or let's just say the eastern seaboard of Venezuela, the Delta de la Macuro, all the way down to the Brazilian and Guyanese border, you're not even going to stretch westward. It far surpasses our 1.4 million of Trinidad and Tobago. And if we continue to have that trickle, guys, caller, if we continue to have that trickle of illegal migrants coming over, very soon we can have more than 1.4 million migrants in country. We are already seeing it in some of the residential areas. There are residential areas that at certain times in the night, they send up their fences, their human fences, their protection, and Trinidadians can't go in. It's a complete Venezuelan community. We are not allowed in unless we have permission, unless we have access, and they have started to have that sort of control. Okay, it may seem that it's communal and they are protecting themselves against crimes committed by Trinidadians or whatever, but it is also showing a sense of strength. And therefore, we need to step up to the plate to be able to ensure that we don't have that overbalance. Look at what happened to Miami. All right. When you look at places like Miami and you look at, let's say for New York, for instance, all of the original citizens or nationals got pushed out, and the illegal, we might be children of the illegal migrants out of New York and certain areas, but there is a control both of culture, heritage, behavior, and practices that eventually overpowers the initial culture. I did a presentation in UWI a couple of years ago, and it was called Impahadable with Slight Pepper. And people didn't understand what I was saying. I was speaking about it then. I was talking about the Impahada and the doubles being mixed, add some slight pepper. That is the new trend, guys. The face of the Trinidadians is going to look different in 20 years' time, It's going to be Impahadable with doubles, with slight pepper. Is a blend.
Good morning, caller.
Gentlemen, good morning.
Morning.
Commander Hira, I have two questions for you. One, are you considered persona non grata within the hierarchy of the national security framework? And I ask this question in that, have you had formal meetings based on your knowledge and previous positions with the certain hierarchy in a formal structure to express these views instead of just being publicly? And two, we know that there are untouchables in our society, and based on your previous positions and so on, is there a inability in terms of a lack of desire to go after these untouchables who are probably the root cause of the mayhem and so on that we see here? I listen to your comments, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, caller.
All right.
With regard to the persona non grata, I have not been able to see the file, but I have not, to answer your question professionally, I have not been what I'll call summoned or invited or asked to speak in any formal meeting or can we work together. That has never happened. When my contract came to an end, that came to an end. I have remained in good favor. I can speak to certain people. I take the phone up or whatever, but not in a forum of officially being engaged. So I leave that there. Considering the untouchables, what we have to understand, and I think the caller has kind of touched that in his very what I'll call protective way of saying it, is that transnational organized crime is not just counter narcotics and human trafficking and movement of guns and stuff. Transnational organized crime is the establishment of OCGs, organized crime groups, criminal elements that more or less establishes themselves as legitimized business and businessmen, and they have tentacles that are far-reaching, that stretch its way all the way into various offices of the land, and those offices include political officers, official officers, law enforcement officers, banking, insurance, judiciary, you name it. The tentacles of transnational organized crime has a far-reaching stretch. And therefore, the word corruption has now been tapered down. We have given it an accepted term, and the term is facilitation. So with the tentacles of transnational organized crime, you are facilitated with certain services because of who you are or because of the depth of your pocket. And what that has shown is that it has now been banded across the system as untouchables. But it's a deeper dive than that.
Yeah. But that's where we're going to have to leave it this morning, Garvin. Do we have another call, Steve?
Yeah, I was going to take one more before we wrap up.
This is our final call before we
final call. Good morning.
Good morning, guys, again. I just want to make it brief. First to begin, I find this island is way too small for criminals to be getting away with crime in broad daylight. I mean, if you recall the last time, people went into an airport in Trinidad and came back out unscathed, you know. People will commit multi-million-dollar heists, and no one is holding them, and there is a station almost in every nook and cranny of this country. I want to ask Mr. Hira, does he believe that crime is being seriously addressed by those in authority? And I believe also when he said we need to take the fight to the criminal, otherwise Trinidad I don't see anything happening where crime is concerned, and I'm very concerned. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Garvin, anything you want to say before we go?
No, I just want to appreciate all of the callers and their views and using the platform. I want to congratulate the station for the conversation this morning. It was one that was timely and needed to be heard. I want to echo the sentiments of what the callers would have said, especially our last caller. We need to stand up and take the fight to the criminal and not give the criminal the belief and the ideology that law enforcement is soft. A voice, a system, a face, a unit needs to stand up and let them know that if it is a fight you want, it's a fight you're going to get. We're going to hunt you and get to the end of this because we cannot give them the freedom to do what they're doing and have law-abiding citizens living in fear and basically imprisoning themselves, hoping for something to turn around in the morning. And it takes a political will, it takes an enforcement will, and it takes a consistency of operations to tactically drive this short, medium, long-term objectives.
Yeah, because citizens have now taken into their own hands air horns.
Correct.
You know, with neighborhood watches, and they have the air horns. Anything go off, anything goes on, they blow these air horns. We've seen videos. The last one I saw was in Valsane. One person, one homeowner blew the air horn, and next one saw was going on, blew his air horn, and the guys left.
Yeah, the air horn is working, but sooner or later, you're going to have to back that up with a response because we're not too sure if we're going to get the enforcement in place in time. So there will always be a gap. Thank you again, guys. Do have a safe one, and God bless.
All the best to you, Gavin here. Thank you so much. All right, this is where we're going to, Richie, you're going to leave us now?
Yep. This is where we can wrap up at the Power Breakfast Show this morning, this Tuesday morning. So have a fantastic day wherever you are across the planet. And of course, remember to smile and laugh. It's great for your health. Have a great one, people, wherever you are. Enjoy your day.
All right, Richard, talk to you bright today tomorrow morning. Have a good one. All right, Wendell will join us tomorrow. I got a Kiss Power Choice coming for you after 7 o'clock. And I may take some calls or two because all our lines were lit up. All right. Let's get into our 8 o'clock news brief. If he is in.
This is your news bulletin